Okay, I'm going to try to be live on all the things and see how that goes. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Hi, everybody. All right. Right now, I'm just basically obsessed with making these collars. And shutting people out because people be crazy. Yesterday was good, though. Like 11 million people got out around the country, and only like less than 10,000 people went to his parade. There's such good photos of him being all grumpy. And like the march, oh my God, it was just so, the drilling ceremony was so bad. The flyover was canceled for weather. I did that, by the way. Weather witch of aviation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If you ask my husband, I get all the good missions canceled. Okay, so when you crochet, when you fiber arts things together, the thread is going to be tighter than it's eventually going to be. This is a steamer. So what I'm doing is trying to get this one to lay more flat, like the way it's intended to. So this is my new thing that I'm obsessed with, just taking junk jewelry and adding stuff to it. But then I realized I could make statement necklaces more statement-y. So and I started adding stuff to all my necklaces too. And then if they're not like particularly special to me, they're going in the shop. I'm doing all these rainbow ones right now. So it's super fun. But this neon orange from the rainbow kit, looks really good on its own. It's like a sunrise orange. I found a pattern for a necklace with curlies and stuff on Ravelry. And this was when I was dealing with the part of my identity that was like, there's nothing actually Mexican about me. But for the first 12 years of my life, I thought my dad was one guy and that guy was Mexican. And then I lived in Mexico, being trafficked through Mexico and Lower Texas when I was 14 and 15. So like, there is a lot that's Mexican about me. So I found the pattern and I learned how to make these like completely from scratch. But then I just started adding my own signatures to it. Oh, hey. Yeah, Mel's great. Yeah, so I sold all my last orange and purple collars, so I needed to make some more. So here we are. Oh, yeah, thanks. There's a lot of cult stuff. Now I'm hearing that there's like the assassinations in Minnesota. Maybe it's something to do with some sort of cult. So, I have to look into that. Oh, I started chapter 5. Get your whiskey. Get your whiskey. It's a not easy chapter. Yeah, his parade was it was just so ridiculous. Oh, it's perfect. Nobody marched in order. They didn't you're supposed to, when you're marching, even if you're just route stepping, like people are just sort of walking. But then when you get in front of the commander in chief or whoever the parade is for, the biggest one I did was for David Petraeus. And then it's like, they call you to attention and then eyes right. And the person in the front of the formation, the commander, she's like saluting as she walks past and everyone else has their eyes to the right, like looking at the commander in chief, and they didn't do any of that shit. Like it was so bad. It was so bad. It was great. Y'all, I'm not the kind of former intelligence officer that's going to talk to you about the Middle East operations. I have like 4 cleared stories. Those are the ones I tell. Yeah. Saw people posting 8,000 to 10,000. Oh, I mean, there was only like max was 10,000 people at the parade, which is very, very small for a big thing in DC. But, you know, people had to go vacuum the ocean floors and wash their hair, and everyone just turned out to be so busy. A Hare Krishna cult member. I have a Hare Krishna survivor friend who's hopefully working on her book with the same co-author that I have. So I think it's going to be very good. Took a water in your chair. Yes, the tanks are going to. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is just a cup. No. They're all going to go back where they came from. We move military equipment around in the summer all the time for training. People are like, all of a sudden there's tanks everywhere now. I'm like, there have always been tanks in every state in America. At least I think every state has a military base. I'm not sure, but I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me. We don't really need to worry about tanks. As long as you don't fight the U.S. military the way they want to be fought, the people win. So we have 13 million veterans on the outside, and our exact specialty is how to beat the American military. So I think we're going to be okay. Yesterday was like he was trying. Gosh, I got to take this off. He was very stabby. It's too stabby in this. He was trying so hard to have like a badass parade, and he just failed at life. Oh, and I love it so much. I am familiar with 12 tribes, sorry. They're the ones that have the Yellow Deli cult, which is awful. And the amount of people I have heard be like, yeah, it's a cult, but they have good sandwiches. The cult baby does not like it. I think I have someone coming on the podcast soon to talk about 12 tribes. Also, I have a podcast, and if you want to like tell your story or talk about your area of expertise and why it might be culty, you can send an email to admin@uncultureyourself.com, which is the best way to get a hold of me because I have a Virgo to manage the Geminis. Thanks. I just made the earrings yesterday. The parade was yesterday. It was Trump's birthday, coincided with the Army's 250th birthday. So it was like, technically, this was like a U.S. Army celebration. Like next year, we'll probably have a big one for the country because the country will be turning 250. So the year before the country was founded, the Army was founded. So we always, hey, Gemini. Yeah, I'm always like, I don't believe in any of that stuff really. And then I hate it because our cult leader was obsessed with it. So I'm like, oh no, I hate all of it. Also, I'm 100% a Gemini. And also like my 2 best friends from 2 sides of the world, 2 sides of my life, Geminis, 1 day apart in birthday. My talent manager, Gemini. Then the 2 men I've married, both Aquarians, 3 days apart in birthdays. So I'm like,
Mom, are you talking real life?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking fantasy.
And then, you've got to have the Virgos to manage the Gemini. So, of course, my admin is a Virgo, as is my co-writer. Oh, yeah, I'm glad you like the outfits. Welcome to the try and come from my job era. The koala is he's called koalifications. Well, first of all, I call them silly koalas on TikTok because you can't even call someone silly without getting a violation. So they give me a violation and then I appeal it and they're like, yeah, I guess you just called them a silly koala. They also demonetized a video of mine yesterday. One of the ones in the green, like you all call the mermaid look. And they were like, vulgar. And I appealed it. They gave me my $600 back. Thank you very much. But anyways, this is my koala and his name is Koalifications. For all the bros that think they can show up, and for all the bros that think they can show up and demand my qualifications.
It's my koala. I gave it to her.
This I help kids. Yeah, I mean it's a bummer they stopped talking about me because I was raking in the money and the followers, so I was not upset. All right, so I took this one and I added stuff to it. It's a little bit fuzzy, but I don't know. It doesn't bother me that much. I can't wear yarn on my body most of the time, but the collars I'm usually good. But you can also just do it over a t-shirt. Where's the Scorpio here? I wonder how cute my mom's a Gemini. You know, I will not admit that the felon in chief is a Gemini. Like we don't claim him. Gross. I don't even know, like his whole first administration, I did not realize that. Even when my Lord and Taylor, Allison Swift, released You Need to Calm Down on his birthday, I still didn't register that he was a Gemini. So we don't claim him. I'm listening to this artist named Candy Carpenter, and she does just evangelical deconstruction music. And hopefully she's going to come be on my podcast. Anyway, if you're doing deconstruction, you might like her stuff. She has a song called Like in a Vampire Novel, and she goes, I just want you to drink all the blood in my body and replace it with yours. I promise I will only eat the bad guys. And that's my answer when people are like, can you have good cults? I'm like, who died and made you the decider of what is good? It's kind of the problem with Hassan and Ted Patrick and some of Rick Ross, like the deprogrammer generation. It's just like, it was just a bunch of men deciding that their kidnapping and breaking of you was less harmful than the thing they deemed a cult. Not saying it wasn't, but I love Ted Patrick because he was one of the only ones that came for the children of God to try to get some people back. But at the end of the day, it really was. The courts were just kind of allowing them to impose their will over someone else because we were like cults. And then people started trying to get laws passed to actually protect us from coercive control. And that's when the cult wars were born. When religious leaders were like, well, if we get freedom from religion laws, if we get laws against coercive control, that's going to F with our power. So then they went to academia and had a whole bunch of religion scholars demonize the word cults. Gordon Melton, the man who came up with the term new religious movements, took $100,000 from the Children of God to not call them a cult, to say they weren't a cult. And then the Children of God used that to get the 4 countries that tried to come for us to give the children back to the pedo cult. So it's really fun for me when people try to lecture me on the use of the word cult. Not that anyone did that here. Let me get down off my soapbox. On to my next one. I do have strong hands from knitting all the time. I also have really strong arms from making 6 loaves of bread every day, every 2 days from the age of 11 to 15, but also the knitting. And then when I was younger, oh my gosh, creepy men being like, oh, nice handshake. Men. You just don't send your best. You know what? I kept journals only from my 4 years, when I went to war once to when I came back the second time. And in the stunningest, maybe worst decision of my life, I threw them away at some point because I was like, oh, I'm becoming a better person. And I would be very embarrassed if like anyone read these. And that was silly. And I know that Uncultured would have been a very different book if I still had those. But for me, like, especially once I write something down, I just remember it forever. It's one of my like brain things. Anyway, but when you read Uncultured and you're like, people are always like, oh, but I don't have a memory like that. Nobody does. And in fact, our understanding of memoir and what's acceptable has really changed. These days, it's called like a book like Uncultured is not called like an autobiography. It's called literary nonfiction, memoir. This is like, I am writing a story based on my real memories, but we know that memories are very faulty and very biased. But I will also say that an important pre-stage to writing a memoir is waking up all those memories. So one of the things I tell people to do, and one of the things you're gonna have to have done if you're gonna come take my class, is like sit down, write every year of your life as a number, and then start writing down salient things, where you were, what was happening, what's going on in your family, because you need to, I'm like, by the time you get through that whole thing, like 10 times, right? Like this exercise should take you a couple months probably, or at least a couple weeks. And then by the time you get all of that down, you're going to start like seeing threads that run through your life. You're going to have a whole bunch of different stories to choose from. Because one of the things that like I'm going to teach in my class is like how, even if you decide you want to write a book about your life or something significant that happened in your life, there's a million ways to do that. I've already done 2 different ways, and I'm going to be working on my second memoir, Un-American. Well, we do this class in the fall. So now I just need to lay it really flat and let it dry so that it stays flat rather. And that's called blocking. And the steam thing has changed my life. You crochet. I mean, you can crochet anything. Crochet is basically 3D printing. However, I don't know how like comfortable crochet socks are going to be unless you do the very, very like a very fine lace weight yarn. I have tons of journals because the Mormon Church commanded us to do them. And actually, we're doing a journal release with Culting of America. That's just going to be like a little personal thing that you can keep notes in and whatever. Like ask the questions of yourself as you're going through the book, like the organizations that you've been in, etc. But I have a note in there that's like, hey, maybe you have been exposed to like journaling or confessional trauma in the past, like where you were expected to just lay yourself open and, take whatever comes in. And like even going into the Children of God called them open heart reports. They had to write every single day with like every single thought they had, their bowel movements, what they ate, schmacks, like literally all of it. And by the way, this can even show up in the military so my husband goes into special operations helicopter aviation. It was called Special Operations Aviation Regiment, SOAR, or 160th. And to do any of these special things, you go through this selection. And one of the things they did is have him meet with a psychologist. And you think that it's because they're assessing you to see if you're fit for this unit, but they're not. They just literally tell everything that you say to the panel that you're going to go up against. And then they just use that to try to like verbally and psychologically destroy you. Yeah, it's so like, I don't even know how they justify it with HIPAA and all that. I mean, it's just, they make everyone keep a secret. That's how they do it. The U.S. Army also doesn't put its psychologists through basic training, interestingly enough. Grew up in the Amway cult. Yeah. All right. I lived in Brazil. It was for the cult. So American Cult International. So I was born in the Philippines Then I lived in Japan till I was 3.5. And I lived in Peru till I was almost 5. Then from almost 5 to almost 14, I lived in Brazil, a bunch of different places. And then we spent like 8 months in San Diego, and then I was in Mexico for about 2 years. And then I was like, I want to leave the family. And then I was dropped off in Texas, $0. And went to high school in Houston, college in Dallas. Then I joined the Army. And I went to South Carolina. In college, I also did a semester in Germany. And I was adopted by a Punjabi Canadian family. And then in the Army, I went to South Carolina and Georgia for training, and then Arizona for spy school, and then Fort Campbell, Kentucky for my, whole career, which also sent me to Afghanistan twice. And I was deployed. I went to Sydney instead of going home on R&R. Anyway, and then I lived in Seattle for 5 years, which is where Mr. Knitting Coat Lady is from. But we skedaddled out of there as soon as he retired. We drove around the country in a 44-foot RV during COVID because we'd actually been planning to travel the world for 2 years. But then we were, on the last flight out of Buenos Aires. But I got to take them to Brazil and make some really awesome Brazil memories with my family. And we also had a host daughter when we lived in Seattle. We had a Brazilian exchange student come stay with us and go to high school. And she is now 24 and about to graduate as a surgeon. But so that's the next time we're going to be in Brazil. Actually, Mr. Knitting Coat Lady is probably going to be in Brazil next spring in Belo Horizonte, which is like my stomping grounds. And then we all might be there in the summer, hopefully, or fall or something. Anyway, for Ashley's graduation as a surgeon. But first, we're going to take her on a trip around Europe. Someone says you should write a book. Oh, I know. Well, I'm starting the 3rd book in September, hopefully, along with the launch of the writing class and the launch of the Culting of America era. Right now we're in a little mini era in between Knitting Coat Lady and Culting of America, and I'm calling it the Try to Come From My Job era. So people ask me about everything now, and I'm like, I'm not a newscaster or a political analyst. Like, I literally talk about cults and tyrants, and I know some stuff about the American military. Like, that it doesn't like Donald Trump. Literally, the active duty military is referring to this as the vet bro Pentagon. This is an amethyst necklace. It's almost certainly from the part of Brazil that I grew up in, Belo Horizonte, which is in a state called Minas Gerais, which means general mines, and is where they say 90 or 95% of the world's semi-precious gemstones come from. Like, if you're ever in a museum and you see one of those huge open amethyst stones with all the amethyst teeth, that probably came from that part of Brazil. Anyway, someone sent this to me along with, just the coolest box of jewelry I've ever received in my life. And it's just like one of the things nobody tells you about being an author is you have to keep a P.O. box so that people can send you stuff. And no, she sent me $1,000 of jewelry. But aside from that, I'm like, I probably pay more to keep the box than I get in presents. But still, it's healing the part of me that didn't get to have presents growing up, because that would take the focus away from Jesus. Então, sim, memórias muito felizes do Brasil. So I had this, someone's saying they're glad I have happy memories. So I took my family back there in 2020, and we went to Rio, but we did a helicopter tour. I was like, I'm not going up that statue thing again. Oh my goodness. So we did Rio, we did Sao Paulo, we did Belo Horizonte, which is the city that I lived in. And so they have this Mercado Central, right? Like Central Market, where you just get like the most beautiful kinds of jewelry for decent prices. And so I was like, babe, I'm going to spend, like, I need you to understand that I'm going to spend a couple $100 on jewelry here. I was like, because the last time I was here, I was literally 12 years old out begging in front of this market on my birthday to make some money to go get myself a small turtle, who then killed my other turtle anyway. Sad story. Anyway, and so that day we wake up, and I kid you not, my disability with the VA had gone through probably 2 weeks before, but because we were traveling, we didn't get the letter. So I just wake up to $28,000 of back pay in my bank account. So I had fun at that Mercado Central and told my husband, because we probably can't afford to go to Brazil twice next year, the whole family. And so he's probably going to get to go to Belo Horizonte. And first of all, he thinks he's going to get away with not liking farofa, and like the Mineiros are not going to take that as a challenge. Anyway, also, I'm like, you're literally going to have a list of rocks to bring home for me. And one of them is literally a bunch of tiny micro Venuses in semi-precious gemstones. So there we are in this market, right? And it's just a whole room full of things made out of semi-precious gemstones. And all of a sudden my husband's like, oh my gosh, who would buy that? And I turn around, and just like in a case in front of where the cashier is, it just looks like a schmeck store, but it's, just in every size, in every color of semi-precious gemstones. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I bought the tiniest micro one in amethyst for my best friend. And then like before I really had the context for being a neurodivergent woman, I was like, I don't know how to explain it, but like when I go into groups, most people don't like me, but I always come away with like one or two like stone penis friends. And that's what they're called. And like when you become a stone penis friend, you just get a tiny micro stone penis from me that you're required to display somewhere ostentatiously in your house. So anyways, he has to go bring me about 25 stone penises when he goes back home, when he goes there. And then it's really frustrating because in the rest of Brazil, like I thought there was just great jewelry everywhere, but there isn't. Like you're really going to have to go to Minas Gerais for that. And then we went to our host daughter's part of Brazil, which is Recife, which is like the best beaches. And I never went there as a child. So I have like no negative memories or connotations. And then we like rented a car and we drove through like all 4 of the northeastern states of Brazil. Just had like gas station churrasco, all you can eat gas station barbecue. So good. Anyways, it was lovely. And then went back and celebrated New Year's and no, not New Year's, Carnival with, as COVID was silently spreading. We later find out. There was a very brief moment that Mr. Knitting Cult Lady and I, who had come from Seattle, which was then the epicenter in the US, and we were like, did we bring COVID to Brazil? Turned out the timing didn't work out, but amethyst is one of my favorites. I mean, I'm a May baby and my birthstone's emerald, and I look very good in green, but I also look very good in purple. And it's basically those two. But I like all the things. I like all the jewelry. I like all the colors. And every color that I wear, people are like, oh, this is your color. And I'm like, that is, I think, the gift of being translucent, of the Transylvania flavor of humans. I'm always like, it's funny because Irish people think they're the whitest people, but they're white with red undertones, and we are white with blue undertones. And I've been allergic to the sun since I was 19 because that's what happens when you put Slovakian flavored humans in unmitigated sun exposure in South America. So now I just hide from the sun. And that's kind of how I invented the scarf again, because I have lots of scarves because I like to travel and I'm allergic to the sun, but I like hot places. And then also I always have to keep my shoulders covered, but cardigans are really boring. So then I was like literally spent 4 years thinking of both of these things, what to do with scarves and why are cardigans so boring. And then I just came up with the scarf again. And maybe on my musical, there's going to be some kind of cardigan, scarfigan, thing. There have been protests in our area. We were out yesterday. So we were just in University Park, Maryland. And we probably had 5,000 people out. Yeah, it was only like supposedly not even 10,000 people in his paid crowd / also full of reporters. Just again, like he's failing hardcore at being a dictator. Like he really wants his name to be said with the gravitas of the world's worst men. And like, I hope that what we're going to do is just talk about him with derision forever. So, but I also hope that people realize, both with the Marine thing, right? So everyone came and yelled at me, like, the Marines detained someone. Yeah. The fact that the only thing they have done is detained someone on federal property who accidentally wasn't listening and responding, like that was a sign to us that like they're not doing anything that he wants. The only thing the Marines are allowed to do on American soil is defend federal property, and that's all they're doing. So everyone was like, well, the optics are bad for them. I'm like, I don't know. A few days later, how it's settled, I'm thinking the optics are just fine. Like the veteran wasn't mad. He gets it because we have been in the military. We know how that goes. You can ethically source geodes, any suggestion? I don't know. What I do right now is I just buy junk jewelry in bulk on eBay. So this box here is just all stuff. And now I'm on a kick of turning it all into collars and cuffs. And I really like it because I'm like literally taking something off a junk pile and adding thread to it with a little magic wand and then making it into something hopefully beloved for someone. So I brought, we did an event in Philly, which I did not make any videos about. So I feel bad. I advertise it a lot on my lives, but so speaking of which, there's going to be an event in New York City next Wednesday, the 25th. And the dates are in my respective bios. So I'll talk about it hopefully on tomorrow's thing. Oh my God. I have such a good outfit for tomorrow's week 23 of the Trump administration video. The last video got 2 million views. Do I think crochet and knitting are some of the first soothing tools? I mean, I'm sure that's not what they were made for, but yeah, I mean, it's so...
They're weapons. Knitting needles are weapons.
They are weapons. They're also tools, like most weapons are.
Yeah, so it's mostly a weapon.
Yeah.
Because tools are weapons.
Yeah.
And that's also a tool.
But
so
people are always asking me how I crochet into the edge of stuff. And it's like, well, most scarves or whatever, you can get a regular crochet hook through.
Sometimes
but if you get those all metal ones, especially in the smallest denominations, they're sharp like needles. And by the way, you put that in somebody, it's going to require surgery to get out. Crochet and revolution.
Yeah, my mom has staked one in her. She needed to go to the hospital.
And mine was just a little beading hook and a finger. So, oh my gosh, next week I'm going to get back to recording parts of Culting of America to go on the Matreon. I'm going to get back to writing the musical script and, just apparently keep doing the news for you all every day. It's like, I'm not sure how this happened, but it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. KCB does knit as well. She also has made earrings with me. She can already knit without looking, and she spends very little time practicing. So I just think it's a genetic thing. Also, my Brazilian host daughter is the only other person that I've ever seen. I just showed them one time how to cast on stitches, and they were like, okay. And then how to knit. Okay.
Hello.
I said the only other person.
Oh.
Hello. Welcome to Sunday morning in my neurospicy house where nobody wants to talk to other humans who can talk back till about noon. So I sit here and make jewelry. But actually, today at 11, we are, of course, going to go to brunch for Father's Day. And I still don't know if KCB has made anything for her dad. But he just bought himself brewing equipment. So, happy Father's Day. Languages. I speak 3 languages. I speak Portuguese, Spanish, a little bit of English, tiny bit of German, and I can count to 10 in Punjabi. Musicals. How many side quests do I have? Okay. So I have the musical, plus I'm doing a sort of writing class. I also want to turn Culting of America, like now that I have that written, I want to turn that into a sociology class and pitch that at like UMD in Georgetown for like a class on like cults and coercive control. And then I would probably also offer that on the internet. Then I'm going to start Un-American, which is the next memoir, Deconstructing Whiteness and Power and Privilege, this fall. And I have written 1 children's book, Mommy, I Lost My Smile, but I want to write another children's book, I'm Not a Dragon. And that's about grief and trauma, and then about bullying. And then I sell other people's books too. And I have 2 book clubs, and I have 2 podcasts. And I have a novel series in the works called Daughters of God, which is 5 generations of mothers and daughters that come under religious extremism. And I basically have a full-time jewelry business and social media business. And Mr. Knitting Coat Lady says after I do Un-American and Uncultured, I should do a photo essay book called Unsolicited, where you also will send me unsolicited Johnson pictures that you've received throughout your life. And at some point, I want to write a book called Every Tom, Dick, and Harry, which is going to be a satirical historical fiction about the history of the patriarchy, as though the Richards were real men. I'm sure I have more side quests than that. I'm trying to learn to play guitar now also. So those are all my things. But mostly, so I just got my 6 months of my Knitting Coat Lady business, and I've built a really solid business out of my brain and yarn. And I have a team that is employed and talent manager. And basically, I think I can just keep knitting and talking to the internet and sometimes writing books for the rest of my life. It doesn't even have to be books, like musical. Everyone that has heard it is like, oh my God, take my money. Where do I audition? I just think I'm this energy person. This is just my energy. Even my paintings that were kind of a lot about depression are called the Rainbow Girls because they're in neon. Which I just sold my favorite neon collar. So I have to make another one. Like literally, if any of y'all just have like old junk jewelry that you don't use anymore, send it my way. I'll like make you something and send it back. It's so fun. And I'm pretty effectively like getting away from a commissioning model to a just making art that I feel like making and then listing it for sale. Okay, I have a P.O. box, which is P.O. Box O, in parentheses, not 0. College Park, Maryland, 207. 20740. Here, I'm getting the actual writing of it so I can show you that. Yeah, I hate doing commissions. That's what I realized. Like even so, like when I was painting, and then I was like, I described this painting that I wanted to do, the concept of this painting, and somebody was like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing! I'll buy it from you." And then I just hated it the whole time. My book Uncultured is under my name, Daniela Mestenek Young. However you spell that, you can find me, I usually say. But I mean, you can just search for Uncultured Daniela, and that's the book. That one is available anywhere you get books on audio. It's newly on Spotify Premium, so you can just listen to it there right now, and in lots of libraries. Then Culting of America is going to be an indie published book, so it will be still available on Amazon, less available in traditional bookstores, but very few people buy their books that way anymore. The majority of book sales still come through Amazon, which we've been the second highest in cult books now, just under Sherry Frankie for like a while now, and that's all of you. So, any other book recommendations? Yes, I have a whole book club. All right. I really like Scarred by Sarah Edmondson. That's about Nexium, the other sex cult. Tia Leving's A Well-Trained Wife. Very, very good. Now I'm going to start doing different books every year, but with my book club, the way I designed it, I opened with Uncultured and close with Tia Leving's Well-Trained Wife, which is sort of just the Christian patriarchy, but also like the ILBP and Doug Wilson's cult, which is the one that Pete Kegsbreath is in. The biggest thing to know is like all cults are the same. So, this is why I do a cult memoir book club is one of the reasons. I used to always just tell people like listen to whatever, right? 5 cult memoirs in a row. And you'll start to like really be able to see these patterns. Pete Kegsbreath is in Doug Wilson's ILBP church. I'm pretty sure it's ILBP, but maybe it's something else that's like more of an offshoot. But it's one of these ones where they don't believe women should vote. And they do head of household voting and they spank their wives. Mormon church being sued for not protecting victims. I like it. Oof, yes. They, I'm sure, are as bad as the Catholic Church and the Children of God. Like, purity culture is pedophilia culture, y'all. Results are in. The best example of this is Pete Davidson's latest stand-up special. He's like 10 years old and he's telling his Catholic mom that he's afraid that he's gay because he thinks he's in love with Leonardo DiCaprio from Titanic, which so is the whole country of Brazil. And his mom just immediately starts yelling at him like the most graphic sexual acts, so you want to have a blah, 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 and you want a grown man, a blah, 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 blah. And she's just going off on him. And he's 10. Like, you should never have heard of these things, Like, and it just like, that's how purity culture leads to pedo culture. Like, stop being obsessed with sexuality of children. Just stop it. Just let children be who they're going to be. It's really not that hard. But, there was a good essay that was written, article, something about how, like, the kinds of people that fall for fascists are children raised in authoritarian households who are taught compliance at all cost, immediate response. Like, seriously, one of the easiest parenting decisions I ever made was just like, there's always a transition period. And if we're like, okay, it's time to whatever, and she's like, can I just have 5 more minutes? Sure. Did anyone feed the dog this morning?
I didn't.
Hey, babe? Alexa, drop into the garage. Hey, babe?
Yeah.
Did you feed the dog this morning by any chance?
What?
Did you feed the dog?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Alexa, hang up. Yeah, buddy, I know. Hey, there's the bracelet I was looking for in the dog food.
Your bracelet was in the dog food.
Yep. I was like, it's somewhere. I thought it was going to be in the washing machine. Just keep forgetting to check. All right, Senor. See, what do you know? Even Republicans like to eat. How cute is that bracelet? Well, magnet doesn't keep it on very well. Little dog. Yeah, that's the little Republican. The parade turned out, yeah. I mean, it was perfect, right? It was perfect. Like, almost every neighborhood in DC and the surrounding area held its own like protests, so that nobody would go out there. It's like nobody was going there to protest him, just like nobody was going at all, which, we know he is a very size obsessed man. And so love that. Love that for him. One day DC will become a state. And then hopefully the Republicans will never rise again. No, I am heartened by all the people getting out. So many more. There's like 11 million people, so many more than came out to the parade. And the army did great malicious compliance. Excellent. Like, we're just not going to go very hard. Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to put a lot of stuff back together when he leaves. This is, like I've been saying for a while, like, we're all on this speeding train now. And at some point there was going to be a crash. And then we are going to have to figure out who survived and then pick up our weapons and get back to work. This outfit is really just this. I have pajama pants underneath, but I made this scarf again to go to Hamilton when I went at Christmas last year. And it's got chenille sleeves. I had some purple chenille wrapped earrings that match with it, but I'm pretty sure I sold those. Thanks for reading the book. Get whiskey for chapter 5. I mean, is he going to make it all 4 years? Like, any 78-year-old man has a chance of not making it for 4 years, you know? So, like, I don't think he has a chance of serving a third term. I was briefly a little worried with the, this is Amethyst, yeah. I was briefly a little worried with the Trump 2028 stuff because I was like, he's doing the cult leader thing of like testing and pushing the boundaries. And if we don't push back, he's just going to steamroll right over us. And like, maybe he's just hoping if he says it enough, like he'll get put on the ballot. And you know, like, I mean, he shouldn't have been allowed to run last time. But no, I don't think like nobody's getting a constitutional amendment in this world. He's losing support every day. He's just going to slink away when he's done, just like he did last time, if he, you know, makes it to that. If not, we're just going to watch things fall apart so fast under Shady Vance. It is going to be humorous AF. Oh, I'm going to so look forward to it. Especially like, yeah, the Heritage Foundation finding out that like, nope, y'all got screwed when you hitched your wagon to Trump because he took your cult and made it about him. And there's no go back button mechanism. It's just very rarely are cults of personality successfully passed down. When they are, that person has usually been identified for decades. That person still has to operate very fast. And it's like Game of Thrones. That's what's going to happen. And even when I post videos about this, just in the comments, you see it descend into like, who's going to take over arguments. And it's like, yeah, that's exactly what would happen. And he's too narcissistic to kind of like contemplate his own ends, right? Many such cases with cult leaders literally telling their people they will never die and the people like believing it and then being completely discombobulated and thrown when he thinking about buying a book. Do I have a favorite chapter? Are you talking about my book? Ooh, what's my favorite chapter? I don't know. I think my favorite chapter maybe is chapter 14. It starts off with, well, F it. And it ends with, I want to leave the family. I also like a chapter called I'm the Biatch. Which is really just me calling the army out for being horrible to women. It's been really interesting that people see me now in this role of like defending the military. I'm like, I'm telling you things that are physically impossible and I'm translating military language to you. That's all I've been doing, y'all. I've never once said he wasn't going to try to like weaponize it and do some stuff. I think it's hilarious that like he can't do anything with the Marines. The only thing they could do was detain a dude who wasn't listening while walking toward the VA because he was on federal property. It's the only thing they can do. Not the kind of former intelligence officer that's going to talk to you about the Middle East. As much as I would like to visit Cuba someday. Oh, I hate this puzzle piece. Yeah, I'm really hoping I have the intestinal fortitude for writing it this fall. I Like, I feel like I have to, but I also don't really want to. Anyway. I'm probably going to need to FOIA the actual trial against him so that I can actually get the details. Like 2.5 years ago when I was working on An American, I had like the PowerPoint pinned that had been put together with all the information against him. But now I'm like, that was many computers ago. My podcast, right? I have 2 podcasts. One of them is called Hey White Women. And that's me and White Women Whisperer deconstructing white supremacy, like the cult that it is. And the other one is called Cults and the Culting of America. And that was like my channel, but with guests. I gotta steam this guy, make him lie flat. I have to get back to my rainbows. Like, I'm telling myself that I hope that An American is just like an extra like 6 months of work, and then, you know, basically I can like come out after a year after Culting of America, but we shall see. I feel like I'm going to do something with this. Some veterans protested. The army didn't protest. They just maliciously complied with the parade. Like, it's the silliest thing. It's just silly. Like, versus like a bunch of people have been saying in comments, apparently the monarch's birthday, the official date that they celebrate the monarch's birthday in England is the second Sunday in June. And so they, you know, contrast with like troops who, number one, are pledged to their king, and yet like that's how you do drill and ceremony. That's how you do a troop change and trooping the colors and military drill and ceremony. What happened at Donald Trump's parade was funny. It's very funny. They were in route step at some point, but that's it's like, why weren't they called into eyes right? They just didn't do a very good job at all. It was great. It's a koala. For all the silly koalas. His name is Koalifications. For all these bros that think they can show up and call me names, and then I somehow have anything to prove to them. So I don't have a Major Macmillan book out that sits right next to Michelle Obama's. After An American, yeah, then I'll probably go back to actually more hardcore working on my novel series. But I don't know, like the music, you know, I'm going to have to put on the musical at some point. That's going to take like a lot of my time. So I don't know. I just know I'll be doing things, creating things. Like, I also have a full 4-year GI Bill. So at some point I'm like, maybe I just get done with those 3 books, and then I go enroll in a master's degree in University of Maryland in theater and like produce my musical, you know, and that's just like the deal that everyone knows from the beginning. It's like, I'm coming here to write and launch my musical. Thanks. Telling you, veterans use every freaking part of government benefits. I mean, I don't do a lot of coaching. I've had some like individual clients, like deconstructing clients, I guess. I don't really know what to call them. But right now I'm going to do trying to build 2 classes. One which will be like a sociology class, and one which is kind of like for women or artists or experts who want to do what I have done, which I guess I kind of describe as taking a story of something that happened to you, but then tucking in enough themes that establish your expertise. So Tia Levings is a very good example, because people look at me and they're like, well, but you have a master's degree and all this. And I'm like, yeah, but like she made herself an expert on the Christian patriarchy by writing a book about it. And now like that's what she makes content on, right? It's not her life and her story. She uses that to illustrate, but it's about this. And I've seen like what I've really only seen very often is women being like, well, I've written a book, so I can teach you how to write a book. And I'm like, that's the least hard part. Like, how do you write a book, but tuck your expertise into it? Because especially if you're kind of a sensational life story, like if you just build your platform on your story, then you kind of keep having to have sensational things happen to you all the time. And whereas I'm like, I built my platform on my expertise. So like, I don't, and it's because I was even thinking of Culting of America. I was like, it probably has like a 5-year interest time span, right? But then I'm like, no, because we're going to be studying what happened here forever. So, ow, wow. What am I making? I'm steaming it. Oh no. Damn it. Man, somewhere. The bead necklace is broken. No. Okay, I think I can fix it. Oh, damn it. Okay. There's just a bit of a hole right there. I'm going to have to do something about that. Stitch it together. All right. It's going to be okay. Plus, now I can use these 2 to make some matching earrings. Yeah, it's more than your story. And that's exactly, like, there's a good quote. This is a memoir. It doesn't just tell you a story. It tells you what to think. Like, or, you know, like it's pointing you in a direction. Like, it's not just an unbiased account of a life, you know, like I'm telling you my story for a reason, which by the way, is the same thing with Culting of America. Like has a 36-page bibliography. I have read everything out there, but this is me introducing to you my theory about cults. And I have this theory because of all this stuff that went before me, but I'm like, here I am adding to or requesting a revision to some of the knowledge that has gone before because they didn't have the perspective. So, but like, I'm purposefully writing a popular book outside of academia to have this conversation with people and not just academics. I know academics are real people too, but you just got to remind them that sometimes. It's hard when you've dehumanized yourself to be in a system. I think, why don't people think the Catholic Church is? So here's what I think happened, right? The word cults and culture, right? Like charming or like are connected the way that kind of like charming and the idea of being charismatic with charismatic authority. But in the 70s, we sort of officially came to start using the word cult as pejorative, right? Jonestown, followed by Manson. And we were like, whoa, cult, right? And then at that point, I feel like anything that was already accepted in American society didn't get looked at for 20 years. It was just like, nope, you're grandfathered in Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists and Mormons and Catholics and all of that, right? Whereas like, so part of why I wrote Uncultured the way I wrote it was like, here I am, all of you all telling me my story is so extreme when I say I grew up in the Children of God, but like you all tell me cult stuff all the time that went on in your life. And one of the things I learned from this very extensive literature review that I've done of everything out there on cults is that almost every expert has at one point or another said all cults are the same, right? It's the same coercive system every single time, which also means that there is a generic cult baby experience. And I think that's what I'm doing, is helping to put the language to that. And that's why I'm writing a musical. And that's why I've shifted my focus. Like I'm a group expert, but I don't care about helping the groups. I just want to help individuals understand groups that have hurt them in the past, groups that are hurting them now, and groups that might try to hurt them in the future. Yep, self-proclaimed expert. You're right. Actually, I've only called myself a scholar. Other people called me an expert long before I did, like The Atlantic and the New York Times. Self-proclaimed expert. Chapter of my book published in Rolling Stone magazine. Self-monetized expert too. Yes, queen. Oh, the straight white men are big mad. Bigly mad. But the last post that I did where somebody was like, what are your qualifications? And I was like, this is competency checking. It's received like 300,000 views. I've made about $300 on a post where I just spent 10 minutes bragging about myself and also sold a bunch of books and gained a bunch of followers. I'm like, thanks. Not to mention, I'm the reigning expert in knitting and talking about cults and bad guys. So, you know, this, Steve, is what they call blue ocean strategy. And it's what all your tech bros are hoping for, right? Which is creating your own market. And then there's literally nobody to compete with you. So you can cry your little self to sleep. It'll probably help if you're clutching your man pearls while you do it. Yes, I'm a self-proclaimed expert, and approximately 3 million people agree with that proclamation and watch me every day. And I make so much more money than you. Also, almost certainly have more military experience than you in one of my ovaries. You won't even get the other one involved. No one in a cult likes to admit they're in a cult. Yeah. And also, though, like when you're not a cult and someone says you're in a cult, though, you don't have to like answer it. This is why it's funny when like we call MAGA a cult and they start tripping out and yelling and telling us why they're not a cult. And then people call the Democrats a cult and we just laugh because we literally couldn't agree on a leader or one idea to save our lives if we wanted to. Or save the country, you know. We're pretty bad at culting right now. No, come on. It's only fun to do the PSYOPs tattoo for one day. But, you know, I will be finishing the outfit soon. I need to go find a red Panama hat. Capitalism. So I think, you know, I always say like a cult is a group, but then I think there's a bigger thing, which we usually call the cult of capitalism, the cult of patriarchy, the cult of white supremacy. We don't say the cult of children of God. We just say the children of God cult. And so I think we have at least these three overlapping systems above us in America that are cult systems. And this is part of why I don't care about helping the groups, because I don't know if groups actually want to be better or can be better under these garbage systems that I think we're pulling down anyway. And cults pop up in times of social turmoil when people are pulling down systems
waking up, realizing that what they've been promised is not real, right? The promises of the cult are always a lie. But then, anywhere in the space of personal transformation, predators are going to show up. So when you have people who are legitimately seeking and legitimately tearing down systems, predators are going to show up there and build new cults in there. Gotta plug this in. The Carmen San Diego. It is going to be awesome. Up the Way International. That's another one. Anytime a group is calling itself it's culty. And it's one of the things that put me on edge about the cult expert, Steve Hassan, from the beginning, even before he publicly sold his soul to J.K. Rowling. I was just like, it's super culty of you to be calling yourself the something. Like, it's culty when anyone does it, but like, he knows what he's doing. And there's a reason that in 10 rebrandings on TikTok, not rebrandings, but having to make a new name that's somewhat similar, you've not seen me use the one time. Yeah, if you call yourself the anything, like, unless you are the U.S. Army, what are you doing? Who died and made you the Church of Christ? Don't say Jesus. And like, even in, 5 countries that work very closely together called the Five Eyes, right? And they're the closest, like, English-speaking Western powers and their closest information-sharing partners. And like, the United States and the UK, cultier than the Canada, the Australia, or the New Zealand. You know how it's like, it's always a Jeff, because it's like the mothers that would name their son Jeff. Like, calling yourself the is already the warning sign, because it's the type of people that would call themselves the. But that's ultimately always the promise of the cult, is like, we are the best, down with all the rest. We are the way, the truth, and the life. Oh yeah, and I have this thing I need to put onto something. Oh, I better sew that whole necklace closed before I ruin it. Excuse me. I cannot talk about the Middle East in general, because I was once a very highly trained intelligence officer. And if I accidentally say anything that someone decides is confidential, I could go to jail for the rest of my life. And I don't like you that much. Yes, but we the people. I'm not a Pisces. I'm definitely a Gemini. Yep. And that's like, and this is every cult's recruiting is the world's about to end. Things are going to get bad. Things are really bad. Come follow me. I have the way. I know how to save us. And this is why the opening of the musical is just people coming out being like, this know also that in the last days, perilous times shall come. Oh, and it's already so great, right? Because the opening is literally 16 people coming out doing the same music theme over and over again. But then in song 2, like in the middle of the song, you get to that verse of the rap, and like, oh, y'all are going to be so happy to hear it again because you're going to be like, oh, it's an old friend. It's going to be perfection. Okay. You all say that it's crazy to work with eyelash yarn, but like it's very forgiving once you know what you're doing, and because like mistakes are not visible. And never know that it used to have 2 beads there, but now we'll get to put those beads in some matching earrings. Ha. Oh yeah, I don't know if not all the videos get put on the YouTube. As far as my homeschooling opinion. Never been able to believe any one person has all the answer. And that's kind of exactly, people are like, how do you defend yourself from cults? I'm like, well, don't give any one thing all of your time or love or attention, any one person, place, thing, or idea, right? Because then you can't be completely taken advantage of. I have no updated thoughts on Timothy Snyder other than a rich white man who made millions of dollars on a book telling people they might have to die for freedom so that everyone else doesn't die for tyranny, and then running away has 0 of my respect. That's what I think about Timothy Snyder. And like, I don't care how incidental his departure was or not. You don't get to leave. No. You don't get to run away anymore. Be a fucking leader. Imagine how much he was paid for this talk in Philly. But yeah, speaking of like never been able to believe any one person, people are always like, they'll take the trouble to be like, I don't believe with everything you say, but this one. And I'm always like, I mean, if you agreed with everything I said, that would be weird. Bit weird. Yeah, you don't really want that. You kind of just want to make up your own mind about things. And that's kind of the thing I think that we have to do in healing and deconstruction is just understand that like nobody has all the answers. No system just gets it all right. You know, I really think we are looking for that after we leave high control groups. It's like, well, this one sucked, but like maybe I can find another group. The same thing with like the connection that you feel. It's like, yeah, because it's not actually healthy to go lay yourself open in front of 1,000 people and just take whatever they have to say. You feel like you're high on something because like, yeah, that was a crazy thing to do. And we just have to heal from that rather than trying to go find a good version of it. He also rushed off. Yeah, unsurprising. Very disappointed in that man.
No, she tried to throw him off the edge.
But, and also then like very weirded out by the deification of him when you criticize him and people being like, whatever, he had to go away. Like there's people in a movement. No, acting like some lives are better than other lives. You made millions of dollars. Hire you some security. Like, oh, his wife was offered a job. So, okay, like my husband's becoming a plant scientist. He might be offered a job in another country. And then I wouldn't be able to go with him because I publicly made myself someone talking about revolution, and that would be gross. An example of when I was wrong about the election. Didn't think people were going to fall for this BS twice. That's the most significant thing I have been wrong about, I think. And it was the first time I called an election wrong ever. No, Steve. You see, the thing is, I get to do whatever I want with my time because I'm a grown adult woman who's in charge of myself. And you don't get to tell me what to do with my time. No. I'm here because it makes me money. Because I'm really good at entertaining. That's why I don't have to have a 9-to-5 job like you probably have. Which, of course, there's nothing wrong with. But I'm not here for you. I'm here for myself. And there's nothing you can do about it. I am pretty good at facts. I literally got out of the military and I was like, okay, I'm good at being an expert. So what am I going to go be an expert in next? I briefly thought it was going to be physical security, but that was boring.
Oh, I was laughing at that because it was true.
Okay, who's Steve? Yeah. You're a grown man named Steve.
What?
Somebody said, have some humility, Steve. You're a grown man named Steve. To be fair, it does say Steven. I did not make this corset. I don't really sew very much. But I did make this. I may not have called the election wrong. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. And I think this is part of why everyone's so mad. Like, people want me so hard to be wrong. And it's because y'all that had normal millennial childhoods, all of you that were allowed to read Harry Potter, you do not understand that these are all our people running the government. We're not being facetious. We're not exaggerating. We know these people. They're the cult uncles we grew up under, and we're better than them. And we know them better than they know themselves. So, like, that's why I'm not often calling things wrong, because I'm one of the most educated cult experts in the world. And the only one with military experience, which is very relevant when your cult is trying to take over the government. So, yeah, Steve. But most importantly, it's important for Americans like you to understand that the reason that Donald Trump is the president is because of the death of expertise, and it's because of people like you. Just shh and listen. There's a reason everyone's here listening to me and not to you. Yeah. If you actually had an area of expertise that people wanted to listen to, you wouldn't be in somebody else's live trying to be a bully, trying and failing to be a bully. He needs to read I'm Not a Dragon. Of course, I have to write it yet. Project 25 is stopping itself. And it's impossible because you can't disarm Americans. So it just, y'all are people spend way too much time worrying about things they wrote down or say that they want to do, and not nearly enough time understanding, like, he's being stopped. Y'all are running around saying we're cooked. And like, he's been roundly defeated in everything he's tried to do, including a military parade. Like, stop.
Millions of people came out yesterday in the corner of the country to say no.
Steve is in a chat. You can't see. I have TikTok, YouTube, and TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube.
Oh, that's what it was.
Huh?
Oh, that's what's going on with the 3 screens.
Yeah.
3 different.
Intelligence officer, NBD. Sipper, nipper, centrics.
It's because you never got access to the good ones.
That's not true. Top secret clearance, bro. Before you did, my love.
That's true.
The soldiers definitely did purposefully not march in sync. That was definitely just all kinds of malicious compliance going on.
I haven't seen much of it because I've been avoiding it ish. But from what I saw, they just looks like natural garbage. Like that just looks like natural army garbage. Like they just put zero effort into it. That wasn't like intentional bad. That was just like.
But
nobody.
What I'm saying is putting
that.
zero effort into it is the intentional
Yes.
bad. Like, is the army being like, we literally hate you,
I will say that
sir.
the 82nd looked okay-ish from what I saw, but the 101st looked like just straight trash.
Okay. Judges are not the people that implement things in America. We, the people, decide who we will be ruled by. We have 360 million people. We cannot be ruled by force. Hey, Marine, former Marine.
Even when they try to gerrymander, the people can stand up enough. Like, this is doable. We have to.
Yeah.
Our representatives must all fear for their jobs right now. Not their lives, fear for their jobs. Because they are all letting us down. Mostly on one side is actually trying to do bad things, but they're all letting us down.
No, that's interesting.
Ugh.
I was watching on IG. I felt like I was missing a party. The IG lives, people don't put in a lot of comments. Like I don't really know what the difference is.
Wait, why didn't I actually see that you went live?
Yeah, like I don't actually spend a lot of time on social media outside of the social media business. So I feel like there's some stuff that I don't understand yet. Warning, how to organize an underground resistance. I mean, currently we can still do it high tech, but if this ever becomes a hot war, we need to not be on technology. That's my biggest, that is my biggest tip for you, which means like right now, everyone should start figuring out what their networks are. Like figuring out, meeting all your neighbors, knowing where they stand, figuring out what special skills people have. One of the biggest disasters in the world when I was studying in spy school in 2010 was the internet going down. And we used to study that from the context of like 30 men working for 30 minutes could take it down. Terrorist attack. Now, like our elites can just turn it off. Everything's connected. So, you know, just how like you used to always, when you would go somewhere in public and then split up, you just had a plan of where you would meet later on. And like nobody does that anymore because you have phones and all of a sudden your phones don't work and you're lost for 3 hours because you can't find each other because we don't do that anymore. Hey, former active duty. Thanks for the coffee, bro. I'm making right now, I just make jewelry. We call these the love bomb collars. It's really my favorite thing because I just literally take junk and I think I'm going to just like attach it to a thing. Also in a thing that I had yesterday, there's just like a haul of jewelry, like 4 pounds of jewelry. And there was a gold chain that just still had a $300 tag on it. So that's why people do that stuff. Mr. Knitting Hall Lady immediately took it away from me and put it in his gold supplies. It's because I don't like fancy jewelry. I like gaudy street jewelry. Oh, but I have some yarns coming, and then I'm going to put them on the Kenyan Jade. It's going to be so good. Yeah, I think I got my first yarn sponsorship, and we're going to set it up soon. So, woo! 20 soldiers to 1 civilian to successfully occupy a country. And that's with unarmed. Well, with unarmed, it was said one armed man can control 100 unarmed people. One armed person can control 100 unarmed people. If your enemy is armed, the U.S. military doctrinally does not take on an armed fight unless they believe they are 3-1 likely to win. But even putting the numbers the other way around, 1-3, like you would need 100 million plus soldiers to invade America. We have 2 million.
How many people think Democrats don't own
How to
weapons?
get in
Also, yeah, they refuse to believe that the left is armed, which is just hilarious to me. Plus, they can't hear you when you have blue hair, you know.
Or you see the thing I sent you on the National
How
Guard?
to get
They put them on 29
in
days.
Yeah.
Roblox.
So they federalize them.
Fucking over the National Guard.
Yeah.
Apparently, none of them got like the paperwork that they need to submit to their jobs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because all the orders were delayed, and then when they finally came out, they were only 29 days, so they don't actually get the full benefits for the month.
And this, like when I've been telling y'all, like when I've said in the past, like the specialist mafia, like the thing, like it's so easy for low-ranking, grumbly soldiers to mess things up.
Yeah.
Because we do not have a fiercely top-down military.
And every little sub-component, every little sub-branch has their little motto about how nothing happens without them. It's like, nobody goes if the fuel don't flow. It's like, all right, so all it takes is the one little special. Like, yeah, truck's broken, can't go.
Patients were below 2% soldiers, but they were not an armed population. And they still couldn't shut borders, and they still couldn't stop the resistance.
Disarm the whole
The knitting spies. One of my favorite. So first of all, one of my favorite facts is that knitting was used for spying in World War II, right? Knitting is Morse code. Yes, we're going to have a sticker of that soon. But then my other favorite fact is that the men of both sides, right? Both sides had knitting spies. This was a known thing. And yet the men of both sides are so into underestimating women that they were not catching the knitting spies. You know, like imagine me on a train and you come and you inspect my little wicker basket, which I still have. And it's like, all you see in there is yarn and a knitting pattern and me knitting. And it never crosses your mind that I don't need a pattern. It's just a message. Actually, the British at some point outlawed written knitting patterns because they realized it was such a threat and they couldn't stop it. And I just love that for us. Okay, so this came off of another necklace. So I'm just going to make it its own thing and then put stuff around it. Sorry, I'm just going to make it its own thing. That's what I mean. So one of the best things to do is just tear things apart and learn how to make new things out of them. That's my jam. And when I do it with clothes, I call it the deconstruction reconstructions. So now I'm going to put a little chain in there so that I can make it different lengths. Yeah, knitting one in World War II. It's great. So we're going to have on August 5th, we are going to launch the Quilting of America era, at which point we will have the cover. And anyway, we're going to have some knitting needles that look like swords. And I'm very excited for them. And we're going to have a sticker pack. And it's going to be like Knitting Coat Lady logo. Actually, I told her I need 2 so that I can Knitting Coat logo so that people can give one to a friend. And then there's going to be knitting needles. There's going to be a sticker pack that says knitting is Morse code. I knit so I don't naff people. A couple other ones. We're having an art print that says cults always promise space travel. It's going to be very now I'm down there crying at the gym themed. So that will be fun for me. And yeah. So anyway, stay tuned. We will also be in some manner of fashion traveling up and down the Pacific coast this summer, this August, basically. We're going to go in Seattle. We'll definitely have an event in Seattle. And then we're just going to like basically spend a week in California and a week in Oregon. And all right, so now it's a little necklace. And I can make it cool. Wait, what did I make of the blue origin craziness? Cults always promise space travel. This is the thing I put in the. Actually, I need to make another blue and red one because I gave away that color. So it's gonna skip the. It's gonna skip the rainbow. This is the note I put in the book. This was literally like when Donald Trump started the Space Force. I was like, oh my God, it's culty, it's culty, it's culty. But I couldn't, like, I was like, I don't know why, but I know it's culty. And then I came up with cults always promise space travel. And it's like, you're always, right? It's always, you are being promised something in another life, in another plane, on another level, in another body. My books are on Audible. My book that is out, I did narrate it. Hardest thing I've ever done in 5 days. And it's also on Spotify Premium if you're already a subscriber there. It's also in a bunch of libraries. But the audio has been killing it recently. Thanks to all of you. And I've also had enough donations to the fundraiser for the audiobook. Now I'm just starting to raise money for the book party. There will be a book party in College Park, Maryland. I've already made the event for it, but I have to wait till my admin is back at work and can put it on my link tree because I fear I don't have access to these things anymore. They've decided I'm not good enough at organizing my own life, which is fair. I don't really have quilted items. I have knitted items and crocheted items. And what I'm trying to do is just make things and then post them to my shop as I find the time. Because my brain automatically hates something as soon as I have to do it. Which is, probably the autism BS. Which is just, it makes no sense. Like I'm still sitting there listening to my audiobook just like. And then the only thing I really like to spend money on is travel. And then it's really just for me to sit in another space and drink there and crochet in their land. And also find pieces, Do I do book signings? I do. Yes, the autism. So there's two things that my readers of my memoir told me about myself, which was that I'm very, very likely neurodivergent, ADHD, thanks, and that I had disordered eating. That I learned through trigger warnings on my book and one very honest Black man who did not attempt to hide his horror when 100-pound me said, 120-pound me, not even 100 pounds. Grateful to all of those people. And this summer, I am on a journey to not change my dressing because I don't feel that my stomach is perfectly flat anymore. And you know what? Like, isn't that the way it always goes? Where I was like, I feel larger in total, much more than I could handle all of it just settling as like a 3-month belly. But you know what? Like, I've already had the worst thing happen, which was a child at my knitting cult baby's school looked at her and was like, "Is your mommy having another baby?" My knitting cult baby looks at me. She just goes, "Oh, mommy, I'm so sorry." And you know what? I lived. I was okay. Oh, nobody cares if you think green hair is nasty. See, nobody cares what you think. They're adults and their freedom to display themselves in any way they want. And if you're like that with your children, I can promise you they're not going to speak to you when they grow up. Have a day. Oh, so predictable. So predictable. I mean, I don't think there's been a day that I have not had videos go viral since I've had non-naturally colored hair, which is like, it literally makes me hundreds probably of dollars a day because MAGA cannot stop themselves from coming to comment on how much they hate my green or blue or purple hair. It's just like, thanks. Thanks for paying for my trip up and down the Pacific coast. We're going to get back to international traveling, but we decided to just maybe pause this year because the state of the world and because we owe knitting cult babies some time in the Pacific Northwest, where she still insists that she is from. But we live in Maryland. I do a once a month happy hour in Maryland, and once a quarter we go to DC. And if you want to be on that list, email @unfilteryourself.com and we'll put you on the list. And we'll also put you on the book list. I'll check my texts. Okay, I'll close Instagram for a minute. What? 12 to 14 inches. Yes, that looks great. They pay for my hair. Yeah, that's probably correct. They pay for me getting my hair dyed. I'm going to get my nails. I've decided, and if you are a person who traumas, gosh, when I heard as it's like a nervous self-harming, but like pica pulling out your hair, like, all these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, and just being on like the right amount of anxiety meds pretty much helps me. But I've just learned, I'm like, yeah, I have to get acrylic nails done once a month. As soon as they're off, I'm going like this and I'm my cuticles. And so it's just like my self-care. Obviously there's privilege involved in being able to afford that. But say to you, if you are someone that struggles with literally eating yourself alive and all that stuff, it might be a smart thing for you to make an investment in, because it has done good things for me. Okay, I need to go. Let's get red now. Different kinds of colors we can add to this one. Severe CTSD. What I do for nail biting is, so I would say like one is just like have a good anxiety medication. Like the first thing when I've gone off of it, because my pills were stolen in Cairo, and VA doesn't care, is like I start biting them again. And so, but also just doing acrylic nails, because you literally, I call them I put sheaths on my weapons, and then I can't, like, if they're not sharp enough, you can pick at your fingers. I need the charger plugged away. Hey. Excuse me, sir. Hey, where's this plug in? Oh, I need to go to brunch soon. Are we trying to go at like noon? Y'all? Oh. Has anyone spoken to the teenager?
No.
Okay. Let me Send a text. Huh? What?
So I was assuming today is the day I just go with the flow.
Yeah. Oh, I hear him in the shower. So I should probably do that too. Oh, thanks. I do have an interesting life. I don't know how cool I am, but I definitely have an interesting life. Medication, doing drugs. Yeah, no, nobody is going to argue with you on that. We are pro medication here. Cults are always anti-medical care. So, if you needed a reason to be pro medical care. But then also I had to go cut the acrylic nails down because now I'm playing guitar and you can't have very long nails. So now I'm going to literally have to go get like just the shortest nails that they could possibly give me. So that'll be fun. People do recognize me when I go out. I've estimated that, probably up to 5 million people have interacted with my content or my book or something in some way. And then, which means anytime I'm going out around a couple hundred people, I'm going to run into some people. It was fun, like in Dallas, walking up to a 50-year-old white dude named Robert, and then Kroger, asking him where something was, and then he's like, "Oh, it's down there," and he's like, "Ma'am, I love your content. I love your TikTok." My mom was so obsessed with that one. She was like, "It's not even in her demographic." My mom, who's by the way on TikTok, she's called Grieving Next Door Mama. She's making a space for grieving mamas, and it's pretty good. Yeah, I'm not gonna have enough of that. All right. Different plan. The poor marching was definitely protest. Yeah. So I'm just starting to learn guitar now. So we'll see how that goes. Apparently we can't take it out. So we're just going to have to get more of this maroon yarn. Yeah, thanks for hanging out for, Sunday crafts. Literally the only thing I have to do today is go out to brunch and then get my nails done. So it's a good Sunday. Then back to work, but it's like a summer job. I don't have a lot of crazies that recognize me. No, it's mostly just people that are fans. I once told Knitting Called Baby that writer famous was the best kind of famous to be because you could still like go on about your life. And then I like amended that to be like, no, I think writer famous plus TikTok famous is fun today. But like recently it's been a lot of like wait staff at places that we go. So interesting. Where is my kid is certainly not a fan. She's also like, she'll be wearing all beige. Yesterday she was wearing a rainbow American flag as a cape. She got a compliment on that. She got all glowy, and I was like, see, it's fun when people give you compliments on your outfits. Okay, her military career is aligned. Yeah, there is. Tried to do it. I tried to nail what the culture was like for us in those days. Yeah, no. Don't stoop to a why the worship of the written word is a pill white supremacy. So nails, I don't know. I don't know what color I'll do. Well, knitting hoe baby's going, so she usually gets to pick the color. And then I just go with it since it doesn't actually matter. Yep. There's this thing I learned about in a linguistics class called McKean's Law from some chick named Erin McKean who wrote it down. And it's just basically that when you are criticizing other people's grammar or punctuation in writing, you will also make a significant mistake of your own. The Murphy's Law thing, but for grammar nerds. Yeah, but at least for learning, I was trying and I wasn't able to. But like I already start with my nails pretty short because then I just let them grow out for the whole month. I don't like go get tips or whatever. Degree. Ooh, I hope I'm the cool aunt. Definitely not considered a very cool parent. Although I guess by other kids. I got this text message from a friend of ours who's like a dear friend. She's just the least adventurous dresser person I know. And she texted me. She's like, my daughter asked me the other day if I couldn't like wear more color and do a fun activity at school pickup, like meaning Hope Baby's mommy. And my answer was like, don't worry. Meanwhile, I get in trouble for talking to her friends. So right now I am crocheting a little love bomb collar. This thing that I do where I take broken and or just unloved jewelry, make it better. Teammate trying to undermine you because she was in the army. Yeah, I mean, especially if she was an officer, like it's difficult because we say it's all about leadership and blah blah blah, but then in reality, everything's just a big competition. It can be hard. I think I better start saying goodbye now. You're gonna want some whiskey at the end of that chapter 5. Just warning you now. So this thing fell off another necklace. It's like a 3-part beaded necklace that I already made a thing on. And so then I just turned it back into a necklace on its own. And I'm making because I need another red and blue collar because that one went away. Look, I found all this like chenille red. So we're gonna just have fun mixing stuff in. I don't know if I have enough of this to keep going, but I think that I do. What's the advice? Oh, I mean, I didn't really give any advice. I just said I like that's where it comes from, is like this competition. Very dog eat dog world. And especially as a woman, especially like I think being a woman officer in the army or any branch of the military is probably like the loneliest job on the planet. It really sucks. It's also kind of interestingly similar in a way to being an artist, that an author who got like a big major book deal and suddenly nobody wants to help you with your champagne problems. Which was also kind of similar to going to La Leche League, but having your problem be oversupply, not undersupply. And all of a sudden, everybody's being mad. And that's a bummer. Like, so I also need to figure out what my favorite adult coloring book styles are, because I think we're making one of those to go along with Colton of America. And then hopefully later a graphic novel. Should be lots of fun. I have a lot of stuff in the next book about AA. I did not make the corset top, but I did make the scarf again. And the earrings. I don't know how to make corsets. I got one corset at a thrift store and I tried to like add stuff to it. And like, it's okay. It's not my faves. But last night we went to karaoke and I took the kids. We just went in an Uber. And as we were leaving, I was standing around looking and I was like, there's literally an Ethiopian restaurant, which is my favorite food, and a corset store on the same block as this karaoke. So I'm going to need to go in earlier next time for some kitfo and some corset shopping, which I then write off on my taxes because it's part of my show. So yeah, this summer, musical writing class. And in the fall, we'll get started on Un-American, which is like my all too well 10-minute version. It's a book that never really existed, but you all heard about it existing, so you keep asking me for it. So I probably will finish it. But it's just hard to put yourself back in the negative headspace that you need to be to write about like crazy stuff. It's just that hard. Yeah, the parade it looked like a little bit of malicious compliance and a lot of just National Guards, not practiced, haphazardly thrown together, last minute. You know, like when I said like it would take a year to plan like a good military parade, yeah, that's me how we know.
Meow, meow.
Something they threw together because they realized they could justify it because it was the Army's birthday on his birthday. Like, it's like garbage. And good because
Gotcha.
I saw a post where someone's like, even Eisenhower, who won our biggest and least debated war, like knew that putting on it is just silly and makes you look weak.
Why does
We don't need to do that. That's just silly. I tend to notice Geminis are always doing something and then got something else to do. Yeah, you know, I mean, I think it's just my mom used to say, and just based on like her own observation of her own 8 children, and she'd be like, yeah, I just think everyone has a different like stress level that they have to operate on. And if you don't have that internally, you're going to make something for yourself, you know? So I always joke that it's like, it'll be my marathon, you know, like making as many pride collars as I can this month, even though of course I'm stopping to make all this other stuff too. But like, and so then for me, I've just realized, well, that is the creative process for me, is just like having these new things inside things and learning more and more about my creative process. His pouting in real time was good. The photos were good. Find clothes in free piles and repurposing them is a great practice. Yeah. Fashionism historians could tell you about how people used to do clothes. And it's so interesting, you know, like I've been saying that like, it's not a coincidence that the social issues, the cults, and the fashions of like the 70s era are all coming back at the same time, right? So things are very connected to each other. So, and plus, when all the handmade stuff started coming back into fashion, I was like, this is the power sport I've been training for my whole life. And now I just sort of run a jewelry business on top of everything. But yeah, it is true. Like it's funny because my publisher, who's also, I can't remember what sounds. Anyway, she's like that too. She's like, I have 2 speeds, which is like full speed or lying on the couch exhausted. And that's basically, yeah. I will be usually, I'll knit for like, I'll craft for like 6 to 12 hours a day. And then I'll just be like, watching something. Just like, but it's just fun. And stuff like these collars and these, you know, I just buy a lot of jewelry, get inspired by the pieces that come out, plus whatever threads and stuff that I have. Every once in a while, I'll get something for a specific thing, but usually it's just like I'm just making art out of what exists, which is great because it also means I can just troll thrift stores and get bags of yarn, and I do. I'm finally getting rid of all the. I'm finally getting rid of all the literature degree books, taking back that space in my shelf. And so because libraries don't actually like it when people show up with tons of books to donate, so I'll just go to the thrift store instead. And I just get to buy scarves and happy Pride Month. Enjoy making clothes punk style. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. You can also really like learn a lot about clothing by cutting up already made clothing. What I really love, yeah, I can find mine. What I really love is like actually finding ways to like make new things out of a space where you're sort of purely deconstructing or destroying things. You know, so like I have been healing my body image after the cult and the army. And so I've had a lot of clothes that I'm trying to think of like different ways to reuse them. And so I have a lot of like wide flowy pants that have the tight waistband. And so I was just putting them in a pile, right? And then all of a sudden, one day, Knitting Cult Baby comes down the stairs and she's just taken a pair of like neon fuzzy sweatpants, turned them upside down, cut right down the crotch, put it on as the long sleeve crop top. We call it the chop top. And it's like amazing. And it's just like very much coincided with me also finding my brand of being like, I only talk about bad stuff and bad guys. And people get so mad, especially straight white men, and have told me for so long that I'll never make a living out of it. And I'm like, people try to shut me down with like, okay, so what's the solution? Like, okay, so what's better than AA? I'm actually not an addiction specialist. I'm the one to help diagnose the super toxic cult. And then move it out of the way so that other people can come up with the solutions. One thing I really appreciated about military intelligence was the military's deliberate focus on like the intelligence officer does not have to solve the problem. Like I do not have to tell you there's 15 guys behind this rock with guns and also tell you how to solve the problem. Like you got to figure that out. People are going again. I mean, they're children. They're children. And they do not understand because they didn't listen to or get to know the person they're attacking, which is silly billies. Speak koalas. And they don't understand the amount of stuff I've been through in my life. People will be like, why are you not freaking out? I'm like, I am sitting in a expensive air-conditioned townhouse making jewelry. That's why I'm not freaking out. Do you know the things I have survived? All right, so these are 2 we started. Now we're gonna have to go because Father's Day and all. They're the 2 that we finished today, so you all can see. These ultimately will all be for sale, but I always have to come back to purple and orange. And here's the thing I tell you, y'all, when you're putting yourself together, okay? Like, if you were in a cult, you had your personality and your individuality tamped down, right? I just made a video reading out of the People's History of the United States about slaves. They had to break and brainwash slaves, right? And it was this very specific way. And if you grew up in a cult, then you didn't even have the chance to form your own personality. But there's still a you under the pseudo cult personality. And even when I was in the height of my patriarchal, capitalist, American masking, right? When I was like blonde Captain Barbie in the army while I was to wear in a year in drag an American uniform deployed. And this was the headscarf that I bought. It's also glittery. And so I say to you, like, you're there somewhere. Right? That person that you are, like, it's in there. They weren't able to suppress you entirely. If you survived, they weren't able to completely break you. Right? And I think one of the reasons that we see such a heavy symptom of cults is self-enlivening, is because it's so impossible to live having your personality completely suppressed and completely broken. Right? And in the really serious cults, Mormon children report 7, 8 years old, this ideology. Children of God, 4 to 6. Because it's just so hard. But if you survived it, you have a strong personality inside of you somewhere. Right? And this will be my goodbye to all of you. Like, the other reason I'm not freaking out is I'm pissed off that I don't just get to be rich and enjoy my famous author life. Now we got to fight a revolution. But like, if you have lived under authoritarian control, you are very triggered right now. But you also survived it. You have skills to survive what we are going through that your neighbors and colleagues and friends around you do not have. They are freaking out right now because they've never had to survive something this difficult, and you have, right? So like, dissociation, that's a skill. That's a skill for getting through trauma, right? When you're doing it all the time, when you're safe, it's something we want to work on, not having to do that much, right? And getting to be back in our bodies. But like, you have that skill. You know, so just like crochet and knitting as resistance, if you put a crochet hook into somebody, they will need surgery to get it out. You know, I hope we're all really inspired by yesterday and like 11 million people coming out to say, like, this is not our America, including like every red area of the country, it seems. So yeah, you have to refollow me because shockingly, this account is only 9 days old and I have 12 violations. So, you know, if you're ever not following me, that just means that probably means this is a new account since you were last here. I just have to refind the people. But this time it only took me 7 days to refind all 150,000 people. So this is my 9th account. I'm just gonna I'm gonna start off my videos just being like, hi, I'm Daniela, and this is my 9th account. All right, let me show you one last time. Oh my, stay tuned. These will show up in my store at some point. And then now I'm selling rainbow ones because we're taking youngest knitting cult sibling, who's a 16-year-old trans boy who plays 8 instruments and wants to be a Broadway actor. We're going to New York City for Pride, and I'll be there next Wednesday, the 25th. We'll have a little knitting cult pop-up happy hour, and the deeds are ready. Hey, Minneapolis. Sorry about like political assassinations, but great on you all for showing up anyway. Super, super cool. Bye, friends.